That burp caught me good. Hello everybody, today we're going to be talking about an old school album, King Crimson's Discipline from 1981. So, without further ado, I'm sure you guys all know about the album, let's just dig into it, and let's see what makes this album sound really good. So Discipline definitely kind of lives up to its name. It only has 7 tracks, it clocks in at about 38 minutes. They give us a lot of aggression, a lot of weird, kind of off-the-wall stuff, but they deliver it in such a tight package, and that's why I think it lives up to its name, Discipline. With the very first track, Elephant Talk, we get this kind of funky Chapman stick line with some tritone stuff in it from Tony Levin, and it's a very fun line, really bouncy. One of my friends said it sounded almost exactly like Primus's Johnny Was a Race Car Driver, which obvious influence there. For Primus, at least, King Crimson. Very tight and thoughtful songwriting, and a very tight structure as well with the song. There's a fun rule that Adrian Below is playing with the ABCs, articulate announcements, banter, bicker, chatter, chit-chat, 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 chit-chat. Both Robert Fripp and Adrian Below give us incredible solos too. Adrian Below, I really like his solo because it adds to kind of the speech aspect of the song. There's a very kind of stream of consciousness, punctuated sentences. It's like he's just delivering a monologue, which is kind of what a solo for any instrument should be. But there's definitely sort of a Zappa-esque kind of speech talking aspect to his playing as well, which I really like. Frame by Frame is a little bare as far as song bones goes. There's really only 2 sections, but those 2 sections are really good. There's this explosive guitar section at the very front with Robert Fripp doing these throughout a lot of the song, and he changes keys with Adrian Below as well. And Adrian Below's like melodic ear for this track, and Tony Levin's background vocals are also really cool. There's a really cool 7 groove in there that kind of ties the whole thing together, and the way that they go from section to section very seamlessly is very impressive. The only thing about Frame by Frame is that the ending is a little bit drawn out, and I think it's a little wanky, because I mean they're doing the cool like phasing of the 7 line. They do that, but then when they meet up, they play it a couple more times again, and then they start playing it up the position again, and then about halfway through, Fripp just goes like, and it's cool that they're able to stop on a dime like that. But I feel that they kind of hold on to that idea for a little bit too long and stretch it a little bit thin. Mate Kudasai is a very chill track. It really feels like you're just kind of like sitting back in a rocking chair, staring out the window, watching the rain fall. Adrian Below's vocals are very delicate, but they're still powerful and can be bold at times. And then the guitar sounds in the background, the seagull sounds, those are just nice touch, very nice touch. And it's also a good spot, a good little island in the middle of Frame by Frame and the next track that we're going to go into, Discipline, which is just completely banana bonkers, dude. In Discipline, obviously, has a very cool ostinato that Bill Bruford plays over and does this really cool drum solo, and live they expand it, and now they've got 3 drummers playing it, so it's 3 times as badass. And then after the solo, they go into this super heavy, crunchy halftime, and they take this riff and they turn it into this, they just make it sound like a giant, just like lumbering and like crushing everything through your dreams. And you know, it's basically like Rampage the game if it were a song. And then the spoken word thing that Adrian Below puts over top of it just adds that much more to the sort of crazy, insane sort of sound of the song and parts of the album. Theilahun Jinji is a really fun track. The groove in it is just super infectious. It really makes you want to move. And also the anagram of Heat in the Jungle, making that the name of the song with a kind of sort of tribal kind of sound to it. It's just a very well put together track. There's a lot of really cool, interesting nuggets and lore. Especially with this track, there's actually tape interviews that Robert did with Adrian in the studio, because he sent him out with a Walkman to record kind of how it's like to be, what his reaction on the street would be. He says it later in the bonus edition of Theilahun Jinji. There's a really cool like thing with the tape edits and the interview, and the story of him actually like getting like surrounded and almost mugged by a street gang while like recording a song about urban violence and street gangs. Yeah, just really, really nice stuff in there. This is also kind of an intro point to Robert Fripp's squeaky, kind of synthy sort of guitar tone. I'm not really the biggest fan of it. I think it works in some places, and I think it works here. But as we'll see later on, there are places where I don't think it works. And later on, I mean, in the other two videos that I'm going to do in this series, because I'm not just going to go over Discipline. I'm going to go over Beat, and I'm going to go over Three of a Perfect Pair as well. So stay tuned for that. The bass line and the soundscaping for Theilahun Jinji is really fun as well. There's also some kind of soundscaping with the guitars going on as well. There's a lot of that throughout these three albums as well. And again, parts where I think it works, parts where I think it doesn't. This part, it doesn't not work, but I think it overstays its welcome just a bit. In The Sheltering Sky, there's some cool guitar work. It's really laid back, really kind of bare bones. And Bruford's not even on the kit. He's using like a kind of a wood block sort of thing that kind of gets different tones when you hit different spots on it. And there's also like a little E hi-hat in the background, kind of like a there's something in the background there kind of keeping everything locked in. I do think the structure on this track could be just a little bit tighter. There are definitely like planned sections throughout the track, but I think they could trim the fat on some of the parts just a little bit. There's some cool stuff that, Levin's doing, just holding it down on the Chapman stick. It's also pretty atmospheric, kind of builds itself up throughout the track and then builds itself back down. And then we go into the closer of the track, Discipline. Now it actually takes the riff from In Discipline, speeds it up, and then moves it over kind of a 4 pattern. But then Bruford's not even doing 4, he's doing 5-5-7. So cool. It's still a bit jammy, which again isn't bad. It could just be a little bit tighter. And then also this track kind of has the quality of being improvised but structured. It's like it's trying really hard to be wallpaper music. It's got a lot of intricate details, but it's not really like, hey, look at me, look at me, look at me, I'm a cool thing, I'm a cool thing, I'm a cool thing. It kind of hides sort of the cool things within the wallpaper. And they use this kind of phasing idea a lot throughout these next 3 albums. Like, say you have a riff. Say you have a riff. Say you have another riff. Or that same riff, rather. Now, lob off half of a beat. Lob off half of like one little section of that riff. And then play that over the thing. And keep doing that. And you got your phasing patterns. I feel like the ending, it also has kind of a sort of wanky frame by frame kind of ending where they sort of hold on this idea a little bit too long. And then it just ends really cold and it feels slightly abandoned. But they're going to pick it up on the next album, Beat. But yeah, we made it through all the tracks. Overall thoughts on this album: there were a lot of really cool points on this album. Really strong, tight first half, tight first A side. But then on the B side, it gets a little meandery and it feels a little abandoned at some points. There are some jammy parts, which are really cool, even if they do overstay their welcome at some points. But overall, this is a really cool album, and they just really kind of knocked that out of the park with this one. Everyone's just on their game. Everything sounds great, and everyone's just kind of pulling ideas together to do a certain song and a certain sound with a certain vibe, and there's just kind of a magic to it, like I mentioned in my last one, with kind of this first attempt, and this was their first album after Red and after Robert Fripp just axed the band for a bit, for about 7 years. And then he came back with Bruford, Levin, and Blue, and just blew everyone out of the water. I will leave. Overall, if I were to rate this album, I would give it a strong 8 to a light 9. But yeah, that's what I think about this album. Let me know what you think about this album, and be on the lookout for Beat and 3 of the Perfect Pair reviews coming up next. I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye!